I pulled an article from what I assume is your personal favorite publication, The Advocate, which is an LGBTQ publication. I know you read it a lot. You know what's weird? I actually do find I read this one, and there's a couple others. Like, I do find myself reading their stuff regularly, because especially when I was writing more, it's like, what are you guys up to? Oh, you're having interesting reaction.
It's funny because there are certain like different content creators that I'll follow on TikTok, for example, who have like just crazy out there ideology that I don't even agree with. But I'm just like, where is their head at? How are they thinking this? And I'll watch it.
Well, when you're like in school and you're doing an essay and they're like, you need to use an original document. Like, you can't use someone talking about it. You have to use the source material. Like, in some ways, that's what I feel like with this. Like,
true.
I could tell you how I think the left is reacting, or I could just read to you how the left is reacting to something.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's some people who it's just like they're brainwashed by the ideology too. Because there's some like there's some girls who do like makeup videos and stuff, and it's like, I like them. I like their personalities. I like how they do makeup, and I like to watch them. But whenever they do talk about like their politics and all that, it's like it's like, oh, if only you knew, you're just brainwashed by this whole like feminism and all this kind of stuff. But
the makeup people, especially, because I used to have like pretty bad acne, and I remember like you know, you like look up products to see if they're gonna make your skin worse or whatever. And there are some girls, especially on YouTube, who are so talented. They're such good like product reviewers, and then they would like occasionally throw out like oh, because it's good, it supports that community, or it does this thing, and you're like, I'm still gonna watch your I don't care, but also like, we don't need the token comment
exactly
here. Like,
yep, I get
it's fine. Okay, well, again, from Melonie's favorite source, The Advocate, Utah bans transgender students from living in dorms that align with their gender identity. So the governor, Spencer Cox, who in the past has vetoed who has occasionally done things that the trans community in Utah, I guess, likes, because he's vetoed some bills. He signed a bill, here I'll read it to you, that bars transgender identifying students from living in a dorm according to how they identify themselves. The Advocate writes, Republican Utah Governor Spencer Cox signed into law Friday legislation that would prohibit transgender students at public colleges and universities from living in dorms that fit their gender identity. It's the third time in recent years that Utah has restricted transgender rights, the Salt Lake Tribune notes. Cox did not provide a comment after signing the bill. It requires trans students to be assigned to a room based on their gender assigned at birth or in an area that is gender neutral. The governor in 2022 vetoed an anti-trans bill that banned trans girls from participating on school sports teams. He wrote in a letter at the time, quote, "Rarely has so much fear and anger been directed to so few." The state's legislature overrode Cox's veto. So ultimately that bill regarding sports went into effect. So I guess they feel slightly betrayed, because in the past he has done something they wanted, but this time he's doing something they don't want. What's your take on this? I know you're shocked and horrified.
Oh no! We need more men in our spaces. This is the thing is, you know, we are seeing a lot of this that's gonna die down with the transgender stuff. Is that, you know, at the end of the day, this is common sense, but at the same time, we had like even government funding to push this whole ideology onto people, and these are people playing make-believe. This is men, you know, make-believe that there are women, and I think at first it like sounded harmless to a lot of people. Like, oh, whatever, you know, it's as long as nobody's being hurt, you know, no big deal. If they want to pretend to be a woman. Well, that's the thing, is when it comes to these like demonic, sinful ideologies, is that they spiral out of control. So a guy pretending to be a woman and all this kind of stuff is not going to just contain itself and just be okay. Like, it's going to get out of control. And especially now, to where it's just like, oh, we need the whole world to play this make-believe game, and people are getting hurt. You know, girls are in their changing rooms at the gym or in these dorms and things like that. They're actual men in there pretending to be women who are watching these girls change, and who are
and the women are supposed to, like, what kills me is the women are supposed to be like, oh, it's fine, I don't feel uncomfortable at all. Like, the same culture that tells women that they should come forward if they're ever, you know, assaulted, that we like should embrace them and believe them. It's also like, except tell yourself you're not uncomfortable because otherwise you're a bigot. That's crazy.
Exactly. And this reminds me too of just like a few months ago when I was on TikTok, this woman, she I can't remember if it was like, I don't think it was a gym, but it was like a spa or something that had like a locker room in it where you could change. And she was in her car, like holding back tears and choked up because she just felt like traumatized because there was a man in that women's locker room who saw her without a shirt on. And that man even had like stubble, and I think he was shaving or something, I don't know, but anyway, she was on TikTok feeling scared to even say something because she didn't want to be called a bad person. But she told the front desk people, and they're like, we can't do anything about it. Like, it's this is somebody who says that they are a woman. We can't do anything about it. So here she is in her car, like holding back tears and also terrified that she's going to get hate on social media for this. But she's like, I feel violated. I just, a man just saw her with no shirt on while she was changing, and she felt completely and feeling violated. I mean, that's a natural response. Like, she didn't consent to a man seeing her naked. And, I would be shaken up and feeling terrible about that too. So
it's not like you got to vote on it. I mean, every establishment runs things differently. And obviously in this case, they're regulating it based on the fact that these universities are receiving state funding. But I remember a couple of years ago, there was a story about a woman who had her Planned Parenthood membership like revoked, and she was banned because she said, I'm not comfortable with this trans person changing in the women's locker room. And I think it's Planet Fitness who had the policy of like, you can use whatever you want. And it was sort of like, I don't know why. I just don't understand how you can have a culture that is like women need to feel empowered and they should stand up for themselves, and then also be like, except unless someone with testosterone decides they're also a woman, and then you just have to accept them.
That's what's crazy is the feminists who are supporting these men doing, and a lot of these men who are pretending to be women are actually hurting women. So I mean, look what's happening in these prisons. Look what's happening in these like locker rooms and this and that. Women are actually being hurt, and then the women are at risk of getting in trouble for saying something about it. So it's just been crazy to see feminists defend these men. And so it's like these feminists are hating on men who actually help women and they're masculine and helping society. They want to hate on those men, but then they want to be all like, oh, you have to accept these men who are actual predators who are pretending to be women. And it's just wild and upside down world that we live in, and how useless these feminists have been. It's like, okay, if here's finally an opportunity for feminists to do something for women, and they don't.
Right. Because then they're like, well, we're not including trans women, which is like, but so we're not including men? Like, I just don't get it. And I think the idea that what I find interesting is like the advocate is saying like, so they're either saying they have to live based on their biological, sex at birth, or they have to live in a gender neutral space, and that's not good enough. Like, there's no compromising. It has to be that people who identify as transgender get to operate however they want, or you're bigoted. Like a compromise, like a gender neutral bathroom or a gender neutral, floor in a dorm or whatever it is. Like, that's not enough. And to me, that just seems so cruel, because they're demanding that you prioritize their feelings and their self-perception over everything else. Like, if you are trans identifying and someone's like, I'm uncomfortable, or like, hey, I'm not sure this is like right for me, you get to be like, no, but I'm more important than you are. That's sort of what I feel like is saying.
At the end of the day, if you're going to be living your life contrary to how God made things, contrary to the natural order of things and how people are functioning, then it's on you to have to adapt to society and to, at the end of the day, if some dude wants to put on a dress or whatever, it's a free country, but the world doesn't have to adapt to it. And that's, it's just like, okay, this dude who wants to do that is going to have to adapt to society still and not make it the whole world's problem. He's going to still have to use the male bathroom, and he's going to have to still respect women and don't invade our spaces and don't make us feel unsafe. And then whatever he does in his own time or whatever, I get that's his business. But we don't have to like it. It's on to him to adapt to society instead of expecting society to accommodate him.
So I worked at an all-girls boarding school at one point after I got out of college, and completely all girls. And I'm hesitating to tell the story because I wouldn't want to, dox anyone or whatever, but I don't think anyone will do anything with this. But there was a student there at the time who, when this person enrolled, identified female at birth, whatever, but then ultimately was either said they were gender fluid or said she was a man. I can't remember.
Right.
But it's all girls school. So you have to change the uniform, or does this person get to access the dorms now? There are legitimate questions about it. But what I found really interesting, I remember other people in my office who were, I would say very progressive. Well, this one woman in my office who, again, I just think was a Democrat. I never asked her about it specifically, but was an alum of the school, was if you identify as a boy now, wouldn't you want to be at least in a co-ed school?
Exactly.
Why are you, and they you could see she felt bad saying this, because it's you don't want to be the intolerant person. But on the other hand, it seems sort of weird. You want to be here, but also you don't identify with one of the major features of the school, that it's a single sex institution. I think that people trying to push that gender is fluid and it's on a spectrum and you can be whatever, I think they are kidding themselves. Not every girl is super girly or loves pink or whatever.
I feel myself. I'm a bit of a tomboy, so it's I
definitely was a tomboy.
Yeah, I like to do my hair and makeup and stuff, but there's other sides of me that are definitely not super girly. I like football a lot and video games and this and that. So I don't feel I fit in this box of super girly ballerina, frilly, fluffy. But
you're you're definitely feminine and you embrace being female. I think some of it always gets lost on this weird superficial level.
Exactly.
If you were a student at an all-girls school and you're I just want to be allowed to wear pants as part of the uniform.
Yeah.
That's different. But if it's actually I think I'm a boy, and I don't know what the reasoning behind this person was. I wasn't a teacher, so I wasn't that involved with the student day to day, but it seems we hang the ornaments of gender based on these really superficial qualities and then say that everyone has to comply. You'll hear the stories of Jazz Jennings. It was the mom will be Jazz liked to wear his sister's high heels and makeup. And that's how I knew that Jazz was actually female or whatever. And you want to be but why were you giving your young toddler or whatever makeup? You wouldn't do that to a girl baby. And if you put if you had your girl baby in high heels and wearing makeup, all the feminists would be wow, you're just teaching her to dress for the patriarchy. All of this hinges on these really weirdly applied superficial standards and ignores kind of the actual aspects of what makes masculinity and femininity.
And what you at the end of the day with kids have always this has always been a thing with children, not all of them of course, but there's always some who say stuff like that, just they say, oh, I'm a butterfly, you know what I mean? And when I was a little kid, I told my mom, I was I'm a boy, because I grew up with two brothers.
I have an older brother. I liked his hand-me-downs better than pink turtlenecks that she would buy me.
Exactly. And that's where I was I'm a boy, and she's just she just laughed, she just didn't take it serious. And I remember I would wear baggy Steelers jersey and baggy pants and a hat, and I had my hair cut short. And then one day I was at my grandmother's house, and there was a screen door, and someone was coming over, one of her friends I didn't know. And then he's who's that boy? I've never seen him. And when he said that, I suddenly something clicked in me where I was I don't like this. Wait a minute. I was, it's a part of me was yeah, I'm a boy. But then when somebody actually called me a boy, it was right. What? Am I ugly? Did he think he actually thought I was a boy? And so then I grew my hair out a little bit and like was trying to be more girly and stuff. So kids will grow
Yeah.
out of that stuff.
I remember my mom like wanting me to wear dresses and like it being kind of a point of contention. Again, like I had an older
Same.
brother,
That's how it was
whatever,
with my mom
but she
too.
also kept my hair really short, which is funny because
Yeah.
like actually historically women's hair trends have gone up and down. Like sometimes short hair is cool, sometimes not.
Short hair
But,
was
like,
very popular at a time. Yeah, because
yeah.
I had
Also,
short
like
hair
I think
too.
she just didn't want to deal with me being like, I don't want to brush it, and it was like always tangled or whatever. But like,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know, how can we like be saying we're raising authentic people, that we are like, you know, everyone's living their truth, if everything hinges on these weird superficial things that like kudos to your mom for definitely being like, she likes this right now, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it, and in her own time she will grow up and be
Right.
herself. Like
Yeah.
instead it's like weirdly forced on everyone that you have to accept these things. And
Yeah.
I just think in this case, like I wouldn't want to live with someone that I wouldn't want to live with a man. That's just kind of the way it is, you know? Like
Exactly. Like I don't want to go into a restroom where and a man be there. Like that I'm
Mhm.
not going to feel safe
I'm
in
not
that
trying to be
situation.
disrespectful. It's just that's making me uncomfortable. So why is it that this person's comfort is more important than everyone else's?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and we're not bad people, or it's not rude of us to feel uncomfortable or to feel unsafe about a man being in a female restroom. At the
Mhm.
end of the day, men are stronger than women, and you know, and with us being the weaker vessel, there's a level to walking around the world. Like I kind of compare it to like prey animal versus hunter animal. You know, if you're out in the world as a wolf, you're gonna like view the world different. You know what I mean? But then if
Yeah.
you're a rabbit, you know, you're a
Yeah.
prey animal, it's always gonna be in the back of your mind. Like,
You
okay,
operate
am I
differently
safe?
for sure.
Am I safe? Like, and so so that's what it feels like, I think, to a degree. Being a woman, like obviously we shouldn't be living in fear and constantly terrified, but we do have to be aware of our surroundings, and we do have to be careful that okay, there are dangerous people out there, and men are stronger than us. So you know, there's certain situations of like, okay, when we go to a parking garage, where we park, make sure there's a safe, because there could be a man like hiding
Right.
somewhere that could kidnap me or something like that. So there's things we have to be aware of. So of course, being in the most vulnerable place like a restroom where
I mean, the
you
stereotype is that girls
yeah.
go to the bathroom together. Like,
Right.
yeah, that's to talk about what's going on, but also like that's because girls travel in packs for a reason.
Oh,
And
exactly.
you know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
How can you ask girls to like? I don't. It just seems like this weird demand you're putting on women today that like they both be aware of their safety and
Mhm.
also be strong and stand up for themselves, but also don't stand up for yourself in certain aspects, and also close your
Yeah.
eyes to something that might make you uncomfortable, but also be like, so you're teaching them to just contradict themselves all the time. Like, no wonder everyone is
It's
so
wild.
anxious.
Yeah, and that's the
Crazy.
thing, is the more that this one big problem with feminism is that they, you know, they want to pretend like that they care about women, but then they're also expecting women to act like men in a way.
Mhm.
Well, we're not men, and if we act like men, then we're going to be in the wrong, we're going to have the wrong energy, and we're going to be unhappy, we're going to be stressed. And that's why you see a lot of these women who are in, you know, who try to like act more masculine. A lot of times they're kind of insufferable. Well, it's because they're miserable, they're in this masculine energy that they're not supposed to be in.
Mhm.
And so it's tough. It's if we you know, we can't
There's
be
no winning.
men. Yeah, we
Yeah.
can't be men. Like it's great to want to help women and all that kind of organizations that want to help women in society. Okay, that's great, but like accept women as women. Don't tell women that we have to be men or that we're competing with men too, because if you put men and women against each other, then you're just saying they're the same thing, but we're not. Like we
Yeah.
are a weaker vessel, and we have different, like men and women complement each other because we have different strengths and weaknesses. That's a
Yeah.
good thing, and that can harmonize in society.
You want the complimentary. I agree. I think that's
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah.
So I say good job, Utah. And I'm sure
Yeah.
Melonie will keep up with the advocates reporting on this. She'll tell you all
For
about it.
sure.